Hello everybody, it's the 3rd of April today, and my last video featured my Imperial Alders, and this video is going to feature my Common Alders, but don't let the name Common Alder fool you. They are a beautiful tree and well worth including in a collection of bonsai, I would say. This one has suffered a bit over the winter, partially because it's in a fairly shallow container, which I chose specifically because the bluey green of the pot matches the bluey green of these buds as they begin to swell, and it seems to set it off rather nicely. And although we've had a lot of rain over the winter, this tree sat under some trees that come over from next door, which has sheltered it considerably. So it has dried out a little bit, and I have had some dieback, particularly here at the back of the tree, which I'm going to have to deal with. I'm going to repot this tree, but included in this playlist there is another alder, Common Alder, which I'm going to just quickly deal with, and I'll do that first, and then we'll come back and do the repot of this one after. So this one is a slightly larger specimen, grown from seed, as was the other one. This one has got a significant chunk of deadwood where a piece died back and died off. It's been carved over the years, and I know people say you don't have deadwood in broadleaf trees, but I do, and I like it, so that's all there is to it really. As I've often said, I don't always follow the rules. I grow trees that make me happy. And this one does make me happy. As I said, Common Alder, don't be fooled by the name. They're a very beautiful tree. So this one I've already cleaned up the root base and the top of the pot, and added some controlled release fertilizer, but other than that I'm not repotting that this year. It's come through the winter in almost an identical spot to the other one, but without any dieback, so that's good. And that's possibly because of the slightly deeper pot. This tree, I'm just going to be cutting back some of these long growths and crossing growths back to a bud, and taking off some of these thicker branches to get a better ramification and a better taper. You can hopefully see this tree is already shooting quite well. There we go. That's it for the setup for spring for this tree. Another wayward twig just there. Quick 360 with the can in for scale, and then we'll get the other tree back on the bench and commence repot. Let's get this beastie out of the pot, stuck into the drainage holes where it's gone down into the water below, and pulled out and mangled these screens, so we'll replace those. As I say, it is a shallow pot, but I don't know how well the camera is picking that up. Hard to say from the screen, but those buds just go together so well. Now I've already cleaned the surface and exposed the roots of all the moss and crud, or most of the moss. A little bit hanging on there, so let's just give it another quick clean. As I say, these were grown from seed, although I didn't actually sow the seed, they were self-sown seedlings. Okay, so a lot of root, so I'm gonna just cut away all this roundy stuff and some of these bigger roots that have taken up a fair bit of room in this shallow pot, so I can get a reasonable amount of fresh soil, substrate, compost, call it what you will. And I've got to go careful around the outside because the roots reach right to the outside of the pot, which is going to make teasing some soiling around the sides in places really quite difficult, so I'm not going to touch those areas any more than I have to. And then I can shade these back a little bit in between. Considering it's only been in this pot, I think 2 seasons, it's got some quite hefty, thick roots. By getting rid of them, that'll be room where I can fit more substrate. I'm also going to try and lift the tree a little bit higher in the pot, if I can, which will also give it a little more depth of soil. Okay. That's good. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now, before I put it in the pot, I'm going to remove a couple of these dead branches that I can see. This branch at the back here is entirely dead, I think, but I had 2 from the single point anyway, so I can get rid of that one. That's dead. I don't have much at the back of the tree now. I shall have to try and encourage some more growth if I can at the back of the tree. But sometimes it's easy to do your top pruning, especially whilst the tree is out of the pot, and you can manhandle it thusly. Take off these dead pieces, crossing piece there. Anyway, you get the idea with that. So I will continue and then we'll get it in a pot. Okay, so I've cut out all the dead and dying, except for that piece, and that's thinned it out a little. But then I've taken out quite a lot of the top because it's very overcrowded in places, which has contributed, I'm sure, to some of the dieback. So I'm quite happy now with the basic setup of the tree. This branch looks a bit young and silly, but it'll grow and thicken and gain a bit more character over time. And yeah, it'd be nice to add a little bit more depth back to the back. If something would care to pop there, I would be very grateful, but no guarantees. Pop me drainage screen discs in, and to them I'm going to add a layer, and I can find my scoop. Where have I done my scoop? Found my scoop. So I'm just going to put in a little layer of grit just directly over those drainage screens, and then I'm going to use a much heavier, more organic based mix. You can see it's much darker. Because as I say, alder are extraordinarily thirsty trees. They often live at the side of rivers, and their roots will go through the riverbank, and some instances I've actually seen you can look through the water when it's clear, and you can, well, it isn't very often these days, but in the past I've seen it when the water is clear, and you can actually see the roots growing out of the bank and into the water. Okay, so that's probably right for depth. I am lifting it up a little bit more, as I said, but maybe a tad. Almost a layer of gravel, deeper. Yeah, happy with that. Obviously the tree's placement within the pot, side to side, left to right, back to front, won't change. Some controlled release fertilizer, a nice generous amount. As I say, although there's dieback, this tree is not particularly sickly or anything, so I want this tree to get lots of feed. Here's an example of how I trimmed this root, and as I often said, this isn't a how-to, it's how I, and that's allowing that root to be placed down the side of the pot and hold us in position. Okay, so I think if I butt the tree, this portion of root hasn't been particularly trimmed back, right up against the side of the pot. I don't need to worry about any soil going in there, and I can just start adding mix here using my little scoop, and pokey thing. Oh good grief, what's that called? Dibber. Dibber, that's what it's called. A dibber. And I can start poking that down into that crevice, filling in that little gap. Only a little bit of spillage as compared to using the big scoop. Okay, so I'll carry on with that process till I've packed in and got no air, and then we'll come back. So I've added a little controlled release fertilizer as well at the top, and I'm just adding in a little bit more of this soil so that the top and the sides are sort of uniform again. And there we have it. Bring in the drinks can for scale. Might have been in earlier, I can't remember. And we'll give it a quick twirl, and then I'll give this a good old drink, and it'll go back on the bench, and in a month or so, 4 or 5 weeks time, when these roots have had time to sort of recover from pruning, it'll go back into the water tray and be kept wet all through the summer. Okay, just because I thought you might find this interesting, this little group of alder came from the same batch of seedlings as those other two, and they've been developing just as long, but obviously they've been kept to a much smaller size. I just thought you might like to see the contrast between those and the others. So thank you so much for watching. Do all the usual YouTube things, the liking, the subscribing, commenting below, but most of all, please stay safe everybody.